in my early 20s, my old son told me, actually, all I want you to do is listen. And I just, oh, because I thought every time there was a problem, he wanted me to solve it. No. Same goes for women in relationship. The skill of listening to a narrative where you're the villain in it is a very, very profound skill to learn. And it'll serve you well in all other areas of life because it allows you not to dissociate, but to detach a bit and stand back and allow you to think, oh, look, this relationship needs a bit of work, just as you might more easily do when you're thinking, oh, look, my car needs servicing or something, or, I should clean the spark plugs or something like this, which you might more readily do. It's easier to us to get that distance and to think systemically about things much more rather than people. That seems to be wired into the male imagination, actually, if you're thinking about the differences between male and females, that the male imagination seems more easily to have sort of distance built into it. And we kind of fall in love with things and isms. We can research things and really, really go into stuff. And then we tend to think that intimate relationships are going to all happen on their own and work. No, they don't. It doesn't work like that. Intimate relationship, it's a real challenge. Of course, it's much easier to separate now than it used to be. In my parents' generation, people, they knew how to stay together. They didn't really know how to separate. And they often had their sort of independent lives within their marriages. And these days, the challenges are very different because, it's easy to separate if you don't count the cost, because the cost is enormous. And if you don't count the fact that if you have children, your children biologically, for the rest of their life, want you to stay together, usually. Blended family is even more difficult than any sort of family life. The idea that you might want to learn the arts of relationship and as a skill, as a discipline, in particularly if you've been to an elite institution where you've had, as I often say to people in couple therapy, look, you've had the worst training possible for intimate relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can talk the talk. You can get good in other institutions. You're probably very knowledgeable about ancient Rome and Athens, but actually intimate relationships, something that you got very, very poor training in, and you might as well start learning it now.
It's never too late, right?
No, it's never too late.
Well, it's never too late until it is too late. And then, as you say, it costs a fortune. And then why repeat the pattern if it has happened to you, and that's what happened to me. I mean, that's where I am. I was engaged to be married. My fiance had a kid, a 4-year-old that I'd sort of effectively fathered for 3 years, and fireworks all blew up. And I was at this crossroads. I was like, I remember almost saying to myself, I can either keep going, being the person I am, going the way that I'm going, and this relationship cycle will continue throughout the rest of my life, or I can actually work out and ask some deeper questions and find out how this all happened to me. I'll say it out loud. As I've said before, it's a courageous decision to go within. Much easier to carry on and blame and be the victim and blame it all on the other person for these breakups. But a bit of self-reflection stops the creation, the rolling creation of these broken relationships, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is why it's been such a privilege for me to work as a relationship therapist, because the one thing which is consistent, I've been doing it since 1987. And one thing that's consistent is that people come in saying, look, I've married the impossible other, and they both believe it, you see. So, I think relationships often, have this ghost of the impossible other, and it makes sense of something which is actually, really complex, really difficult, really challenging. I'm not saying it's easier for women than men, because with intimate relationships is existentially difficult for all of us, but actually the normal sharing, speaking about what's inside, mostly seems to be easier from women. And of course, if you look at the suicide statistics, men score much higher on this.